This is Jason with Glitch in the System. Today we are going to work on the Pixel Art Maker project from Udacity's Grow with Google Challenge in the jQuery section. So this is actually the final project in the challenge course, and this is what it looks like. So this is the complete project. So they've already given us the HTML and CSS. What we had to do is basically work on the JavaScript section, and this is what it does. So you have a grid, and you give it a height and a width. So let's make it 10 by 10. Oops. And then submit. So the first thing we need to do is add code to create this grid. All right. And the second thing is that using this color picker that they've given us here, we need to be able to select any color, and then when we click on a square, it will make that color, that square, that color. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this guy here. Let me just show you their requirements. So users should be able to dynamically set the size of the table, choose a color, and click a cell in the grid to fill that cell. So that's what I showed you. I've gone ahead and taken the starter files and put it inside of Visual Studio Code. The files that we care about are the JavaScript, the HTML, and the CSS. So let me condense that there. Alright, so this is our HTML file. So we don't need to touch the HTML or the CSS files at all. But let me go back over here. Let me open this up. Open in Chrome. Alright, so it looks exactly like what I showed you for the finished project. So you can see that I did not touch the HTML or CSS at all. But look, if I hit the submit button, nothing happens. However, if I pick a color, the color picker does pop up. So you might be wondering, what is this magic? Why is the color picker popping up? So first thing you might do is go into the JavaScript and notice that, oh, there's actually no code in the JavaScript file right now. So it's not JavaScript that's making that happen. So what it is when you have an input type of color, that tells your browser to open the color picker. So it's pretty neat. It's a built-in feature. So now you know. Okay. All right, let's head on over to the JavaScript file. So first, we need to create a couple variables. So we need color and the size inputs. So let's do the size first. So height, width, and we need color. All right. And save that. Okay. And then in here, when size is submitted by the user, call make grid. So we need to use the submit method to call the make grid. But I kind of want to look at the HTML first to see what happens. So so we know that grid is going to go down here somewhere. So let's find that. So design canvas, so table. So this table here is where the grid will go. So let me format it a little bit. So for tables, the things that make the grid is a table row, and within that table row you need a TD. I forgot what TD stands for. Table data, I believe. So if I save this, let me reload. So now you see I've created a table with one square. So let's look at the CSS real quick. So normally, if you don't have any CSS, you're not going to see this. You'll have a table. So our table is getting these lines from this. So table, table row, table data, and then it gets border 1 pixel, solid black. And then here's the height of the row. So it's going to be a 20, and then by 20. So this would be a 20 by 20 square. So if you wanted more, so what is this going to do? This is going to give us one row with 3 squares in it. Okay, good. And then let's just copy this whole thing. So this should give us 2 rows with 3 squares in it. if I save it, all right, 2 rows with 3 squares. So now you know the HTML of how it needs to be entered for our grid to show up. But we don't want to write the HTML like that. We want it to happen dynamically through the JavaScript. So let's do this. All right, so we need to take the value. So this is our height, this is our width, which we haven't actually set yet. And then when we hit the submit button, it's going to create this grid. So it's going to make the call to create the grid. So let's set this up. So okay, so we need the size picker ID. So this is the form. The form has different things. It has an input of a number, versus that, has another input of a number, and it has a submit button. So we're going to take our jQuery size picker ID. So remember, hash is the ID, and then submit. And then for this, we need to use a function here, and then just put something here for event. All right, and just to show you something real quick, I'm going to go to jQuery submit form. Okay, jQuery submit form. So if you look at the submit method, I'll show you what I did. So submit, so it's going to look similar to what I did. So here's your jQuery selector, and then submit function, and then event, and then we're going to add this little event prevent default. And if you want to know more about that, it is right in there. So I'll let you guys look that up yourself. So event dot prevent default. Okay, and then now we are going to set our height, and we're going to set our width. Okay, the reason we're doing it inside of the submit function, the submit call, is because if we set it up here, then as you can see, the default values are 1 and 1. When we hit submit, it would use 1 and 1 regardless if we actually made changes to it. So we want to get the values at the time that you submit the button. All right, so what needs to go here? So the height, so they've given us IDs. So this is the height text field. So hash input height, and then we want the value from that. So it's actually .val. Okay, and then this one is going to be similar. And they do have a typo here, so it says input weight, but it's actually, it should be input width, but that's okay. We don't need to mess with that. Just use what they've given us. All right. Okay. So when we hit that submit button, we're going to set the value. We're going to grab the value of height, whatever's in that box, and the value of width, whatever's in that box. And then it says make grid call. So make grid, and then I'm going to actually pass in height and width into there. Okay, save that. So if I refresh this right now, nothing's going to happen because we haven't put anything in here. But let's try this. Height plus height plus and width plus width. Okay, let's just do a console.log just to make sure that our submit is actually working. So let's go ahead and open up our console here, clear all that, and reload. And then hit submit. Oh, we got a problem here. So uncaught reference error. the $sign is not defined, and that is because we have not imported our JavaScript or our jQuery. So I'm going to Google for jQuery Cdn. So jQuery Cdn, I'm going to try that one. So we want, I'm just going to grab the Google one. So this is going to give us our files, our jQuery files. Okay, save that. All right, let's refresh this. And still not working. All right, let's see what I did wrong here. Oh, that's why. I'm missing the opening. Whoops. Actually, I'm not. It's just, what is going on here? Save. Reload. There we go. Huh. I guess I didn't save it, so or maybe I did. Something is wrong in here. Alright, let's try this one instead. Reload. Interesting. Oh, I know why. So in JavaScript, it matters what order you put stuff in. So we're trying to load the JavaScript file before we load jQuery. So let me try that. Reload. Okay, that's what it was. So order matters. So as you can see, putting the script to get the jQuery library first before we actually start calling our file that uses jQuery is important. All right, so let's submit. So you can see height 1 and width 1. I have some spacing errors there. Height, width, and all right. And then just for fun, I need to reload it. Just for fun, let's put a value in there. So 10 and 10, put 100 in there, 10 and 100, change that to 1. All right, so now we know that our submit function, or our submit method on our form here, is doing what we want it to do. It's grabbing the values from those input boxes. So I'm just going to comment this guy out here because we don't need that anymore. Okay. And now we are on to start working on this make grid function. All right, so let's start with our make grid function here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some parameters. So remember how we passed in height and width in here? So we need to define those parameters here. So I'm just going to call it X and Y. And first things first, when we hit the submit button, I want to make sure that if I had previously created a grid, I want to remove it. So to do that, I am just going to say any table rows, remove them. If I could spell remove. All right. So this is, so when this is make grid is called, it's going to remove every single table row, and it's that will remove all the TDs also. So TRs and TDs will all be removed. And usually you want to be more specific, but there are no other tables in this HTML, so this is fine for right now. Okay, I'm going to format this a little bit better here. Okay, so if you remember from the, I believe it was the building the triangle quiz, we learned about nested loops. nested loops, nested for loops to build that triangle. Remember, the triangle had a row of 1, had a row of 2, a row of 3, and so on until it made a triangle of a specified dimension. So we're going to do something similar, but it's going to be a square instead of a triangle. So let's do our for. So I'm just going to call this var I for our counter, and then we're just going to start it at 1. And then go as long as I is less than or equal to whatever we put in here. So the height, which is x, and then I plus plus, so add to I. And then what we want to do is, let's go over here. So our table had the ID of pixel art canvas. So ID, so hash there, and then we want to append to it, and then remember I said we need a table row, and we're going to give that an ID of table and then plus I. So this is the reason why I started it at 1, just so that this is easier to work with. So every time we call this method, so whatever value is in there for height, we're gonna create a row, a table row, and it's gonna have an ID for each increment that we do. So since we're starting at 1, it's gonna have ID of table 1 plus, and then close that tag. Okay. Let's see, that looks good. Oops. All right, let's refresh this, and let's see if anything happens now. So nothing is happening. Let us check why. Elements, body, table ID, table. Okay, we have a table row. I think we might need a table, the TD item also before stuff will start showing up. So at least we can see that our table row was created, and it does have an ID of table 1 since we have 1 in here. Let's put 10 in there and see what happens. So good, we have 10 rows. They're just not showing up yet until we get the rest of the data. So far so good. Alright, so now that we have that, so we're going to need another for loop. Let's just call this j. It's going to look exactly the same. So j is less than or equal to, and y, j plus plus. Okay, and for this, we are going to use the selector, or the IDs that we created already. So table plus, and then for this we're going to put an I. We're not going to put in j because we need the row ID, because we're going to add a cell for each row. So let me finish writing this up and then I'll kind of walk through it so we can have some more room. So append, and then TD. Okay. All right. So if we put it 1 by 1, we're going to have, this is going to be run 1 time. So it's going to add a row with table ID 1 or table 1 as an ID. And then it's going to go in here, and this is going to find table 1 by its ID and add this cell. All right. So let's go ahead and save that. Let's refresh. Let's see if anything shows up now. All right, so now we have a square. Good. Let's inspect this guy. So now you can see we have, within our pixel canvas table, we have table 1 and we have 1 cell. And then let's see what happens if we do 10 and 10. All right, so looks like that works. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have a 10 by 10. So you can see for each table row, we're going to have 10 table data cells. All right, so that part is all done. So let me find the end here. All right, so the next thing what we need to do is we need to take the color, and when we click on a cell, it needs to apply that color to it. So within here, so I'm just gonna make a note, add color to cell. Okay, so within here, we're gonna take some jQuery. So we're gonna find the table data, or the cell, the TD, whatever you want to call it, and then click. Then we're going to need to put a function here. Let's just call this add color. Okay, so right now we're going to set color equals, and we need to find out what the color picker, so color picker ID. So hash color picker ID. So we're going to get the value from the color picker and set it to the color variable that we have. Okay? And now we need to do this. So if, and then we need to use this dot attribute style. So we're looking to see if this cell has a style attribute. If it does, then we're going to this dot remove attribute style. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is when you click on one of these cells, for that cell, that's where we're using this, and we're going to check to see if the attribute of style is inside of that first opening TD bracket, or TD opening element. All right, so then else, so if it doesn't have any style, then we're going to this dot, oops, dot attribute, and then we're going to want to add the style attribute, then comma, and then the value of the style attribute is going to be background color plus whatever the value of color was. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh. All right, so we have a 1 by 1. Let's make it a 10 by 10. 10 by 10, submit, and we have black currently set. And hey there, look. When I click it, it adds the color. When I unclick it, it removes the color. So let's, oops, I didn't mean to reload. Let's try that again. Okay, let's inspect that guy. So you can see that cell right there has a background color of whatever the color that's set. So this is the color code for black. And then if I uncheck it, you can see that it's removed. So you can see very easily what's happening there. Okay, and then if I change the color, let's do red, and I click something, and now we have red. Okay, and you can see that if I do multiple colors, still works. So that's basically it. You can go ahead and add some more styles to this, because this is pretty boring. It's just a white HTML page with some black and white stuff on there, and then whatever your grid is. So I've seen people fancy this up, but that's it. So congratulations for getting all the way through the challenge course. You've done it. You've done a great job if you're able to successfully complete this. And hit that like button if you liked the video, and subscribe if you want to see more things like this. All right.